So good morning. First of all, I would like to welcome you to uh, Red Hat Ansible webinar. So uh, let's begin with the webinar here. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself. 15 years experience in system administration and working as a tech consultant and providing various types of trainings like corporate, classroom, and online trainings, right? And these are the following technologies I'm expert in. Basically, coming to Red Hat, Ansible engine as well as Tower. And apart from this, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Ubuntu, Oracle Linux, and Solaris, IBM AIX, VMware Cloud Technologies like AWS, and Veritas Suite. And apart from this technologies, I also support the job support and certification assistance will be provided, right? And I have given more than 6,000 plus training all over the globe over the online, okay, from past 15 years or past 12 years, okay. So fine, this is all about myself. Now let's begin into the webinar here. So here, like we joined here just to discuss, about something about the Ansible. So basically, what is Ansible here? The major agenda of this particular core webinar is what is Ansible, where it is used, okay, and why it is used. Because as you are working with the real-time projects, you will really come across so many DevOps tools or so many automation tools, right? So Ansible is one of the tool which is used for automation, which is used for many other things. It might be a configuration management, it might be application deployments, it might be, you know, in, it can be a something called orchestration, right? So let's get into the things. We will see what is exactly Ansible, right? So like Puppet and Chef, Ansible is also one automation tool, which is an open source automation tool. When I say that it is an open source automation tool, very simple. So open source means the code is open to everyone, right? Everyone can, write the code and they can use that particular code, or they can modify the code. They can use that modified code as per their requirements. This is the meaning of open source automation tool, right? But the other meaning of open source, I can say it is free. That is a different thing here. So, and this Ansible is an automation tool which is used for what purpose it is used basically. So it is used for IT tasks. Platforms used for IT tasks such as configuration management, application deployments, intra-service orchestration, and provisioning. Right. So this is the areas where this Ansible automation tool or is majorly used, and it is used for both Unix as well as Windows based environments. So actually, Unix and Linux and Windows based environments it is used. Okay, that means you can install Ansible on these platforms and you can automate your entire data center infrastructure, right? When I say that data center infrastructure, in a sense, very simple, you can automate your servers, you can automate your, what we say, databases, you can automate your network devices, security systems, storages, containers, everything, right? Whatever the technologies that we use inside the data center infrastructure, we can automate everything using an Ansible. Okay, such a beautiful tool, such an awesome tool is Ansible. Okay, so we will discuss like how this Ansible came into an existence, and we will also discuss by going into an automation tool. Using an automation tool, what exactly we are going to see in a data center, right? So what you're going to see, more productivity, right? with lower cost, reduces the complexity, right? This is what exactly happens. Okay, more productivity lowers the production cost and reduces the complexity, right? It provides a very good customer services, and this is the benefit of the automation, right? So we will discuss more about it. So let's get into the things. So basically, when I'm just talking about Ansible, basically Ansible is introduced, or it has been developed in 2012 by a person called Michael D. Hans. And Michael D. Hans is a developer. Okay, he's having a vast experience inside the development. He has a vast experience in working with different tools which are used for DevOps. Okay, it might be a Puppet, it might be a Chef, it might be Jenkins, many other tools we have, right? Which even we don't know the names on that tools. The Michael D. Hans were working, and with this experience, what he did is he want to develop a new tool. The reason behind why he developed this Ansible tool is because when you go into the real-time projects, for configuration management, we use different tools. For server deployments, we use different tools, right? For automation, we use different tools. Getting it? So for this reason, what Michael has done is instead of using the different tools for different purpose, that is nothing but configuration management, automation, or some other things, why don't we develop a tool? Why don't we develop a tool which supports everything under a one tool? Everything should support under a one single roof. It support automation, it should support configuration management, it should support server deployment, everything should be supported. So this was the goal behind the Ansible. So he kept all his ideas, and what he did is he started developing the Ansible, right? A developer who has been working for configuration management and infrastructure orchestration in one form of another from many years, right? So this is what exactly. So Michael found many companies were using separate tools to automate their workload, configuration management. When I talk about Puppet, Chef, CF engine, when you talk about server deployment, we are going to use something Capistrano and Fabric. And when you talk about Haddock commands, we used to use function, plain, SSH commands. So what he did is he wrapped up all these things into a one single tool that is nothing but Ansible. He wrapped up everything. You can do everything inside the Ansible, right? So this made Ansible to become popular tool in a very low span of time, in a very less span of time, right? It made entire industry look into the Ansible because all this feature. And Michael D. Hans has been cut off all the dependencies. What is this dependencies? Yeah, if you want to work with so and so, you know, DevOps tool, you should have some basic prerequisites. What is that? You should know scripting, you should know coding, you should know Python, right? Getting my point. But whereas when it comes to Ansible, we don't have such kind of dependencies at all. Any user who is working at production level, who's working at data center level, who's working at infrastructure level, who's working at a cloud or Kubernetes or containers or storage, any level they are working, they can use Ansible just in few days, just in few hours. They can understand Ansible in very, you know, easily, and they can make their work environment more productivity, right? So this is the goal behind the Ansible. So how he did it, what he did it, right? See, very simple here. Ansible is developed based on Python, remember, but the person, a admin or a person who is using Ansible, they don't need to learn Python because Python is a backend program for Ansible. See, small example I will tell you, like Linux and Unix are developed based on C. But before we start learning Linux and Unix, are we learning C, C++? No, not required. It's a backend program. If you just learn the commands, if you know how to use the commands with respect to options, that is sufficient, right? The same scenario has been implemented inside the Ansible. What Michael Dehan says is it's a backend program for Ansible is Python. But as a Ansible admin, you know, there is not need to learn Python. Okay. So this is what exactly. Even if you know the Python, that is well, that is better. So for, what areas, if you know the Python, it is good. I'll tell you that also. Right. So let us get into the things we will just discuss something about. And you know that the Ansible was introduced in 2012, but what happened is in 2015 Red Hat has acquired the Ansible. And with Red Hat, I mean with Ansible, they have acquired something called Michael Dehans, and they made Michael Dehans as the head of the Ansible project, right? Then the reason behind why the Red Hat has acquired the Ansible, because they want to take the Ansible to the next level. They want to enhance the Ansible and develop it and put it into a next level. This is the reason, this is the goal behind the Ansible, right? Why? Because they want to introduce Ansible to the next level, okay, to the IT industry, right? What is mean by next level? Basically, whatever the Ansible, the Michael D. Hans has been developed, it is purely on a command line. It is purely on a command line. And what Red Hat has done is they have enhanced the features of Ansible and they introduced the other tool that is with the name called Ansible Tower. It is purely a web-based UI. Getting it? And Ansible Tower is being used at enterprise levels where the organization is very big, 1,000, I mean, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, or more than 20,000 servers. And using a tower, you can manage your entire infrastructure with a very systematic and easy manner. Okay, by reducing the complexity and you know increasing the productivity and reducing the cost. This is what exactly happened. Okay, so let's get into the things. So why Ansible? Okay, see many scenarios Ansible is simple. Why it is simple? Human readable automation. No special coding skills is needed. Okay, human readable automation. No special coding skills are needed. Then you will have a doubt how you are going to write a code, how you are going to automate it. Very simple here. Whatever the code we are going to write using Ansible, that is called playbook. That is called something playbook. And remember, the playbooks are written in a very simple language that is called YAML, YAML. We call it as a YAML. Getting it? Okay. So YAML is a very simple language. YAML is one uh, very simple data structure language, we can say, like how you write a data into your text file. In the same way, you are going to write the code into the file, or we call that code the file, whatever we are going to use. I mean, wherever you write the code, that is called a playbook. And remember, okay, the playbooks are written based on YAML, and YAML is a very simple language. Okay, you can just learn the YAML and you can just start writing it. So this is what exactly happens. Now let's get into the things, and the task executed in order usable by every team. Get, protect, quickly, right? And why Ansible is powerful? So Ansible is powerful because you can use Ansible for application deployments, you can use Ansible for configuration management, you can use Ansible for workflow orchestration, you can use Ansible for network automation, and you can also use Ansible for orchestrating the application lifecycle management. So because of this is all the areas where the Ansible can be used. Because of all these reasons, Ansible is more powerful. The other feature of Ansible is agentless. Okay, so we will call it as Red Hat Ansible is powerful and agentless. Powerful because you can deploy, you can use in these all areas, and agentless. You should know one thing here. We don't have any agent on your clients. Then you might ask me how the clients are going to get communicate. Very simple. We are going to use a well-known service that is called SSH. If it is Linux and Unix, we try to use SSH. If it is Windows, then we try to use a tool called WinRM. WinRM stands for Windows Remote Management, we call it as, right? So this is what exactly happens. So let me give you an example about other tools, like how exactly it is going to work. We try to take an example about the Puppet. So take an example. This is my Puppet server and this is my Puppet client here. Very simple. And this is my Puppet server. Okay. Why you're calling it as a Puppet server? Because the Puppet is installed here. That's the reason. And why you are calling it as a Puppet client here? Because the Puppet agent is installed here. Okay, why we need agent here? Because in order to communicate from client to server or client to server or server to client, we need agent. So without agent, you will not be able to communicate with the server. Now you will say this is a default behavior of any tool that we get into industry. Yes, you're right. This is a default behavior of any tool. You go for a backup tool, you go for any kind of tools you do, there will be an agent concept here, because the agent only will recognize the client, right? And the agent only will interact with your server, right? This is what exactly happened, right? Then what is the problem here is, take a small example. We will see at the commercial side here. Assume that you have bought a Puppet license for 100 node. Okay, 100 node license, you bought it. Okay, and you have deployed all the 100 nodes, it was working fine. But later on, what happened? The size of the project getting increased, the load was high. Then what you did is, you want to add a 25 machines, 25 nodes more to your existing Puppet environment, to your existing environment. So if you want to add another 25 machines, what exactly we should do? Before you add these 25 machines, you should contact you should interact with your management, saying that, boss, we need to add another 25 machines that involves in commercials, and you need to talk to the Puppet company, right? You need to place the order, you need to buy the license, and then you need to deploy, right? So that means it is clear there is a lot of process are involved in order to add another 25 machines, or even not 25 machines, even you want to add one or two machines after 100 machines, definitely the cost involves here, right? Remember, this is what exactly happens here, right? But whereas when you go for, very simple, when you go for Ansible here, so this is my Ansible server and this is my Ansible client. So basically we don't call it as Ansible server here, we call it as something called control node. Okay, why we are calling it control node? Because Ansible is installed. Okay, Ansible is installed here, and when we are going to call it as a managed node here. Okay, why? Because this is my target machine which I am going to manage through the control node. Okay, and already the network is there. Okay, and very simple, the managed node doesn't have any agent. Then you'll ask me, how do we communicate from control node to managed node? Very simple, we are going to use something, an existing service which we are using it, SSH, and we use SSH with a key based authentication. You know what is key based authentication? Okay, basically SSH support two types of authentication. One is password authentication, another one is key based authentication, right? Password means every time you need to put a password to connect a remote machine. Key based means we try to copy a key from control node to manage node, and it will try to authenticate based on the key base. This is what exactly happens. So what we do is we try to use a key based authentication to communicate from control node to manage node. And one more thing here is, the major difference between the other tools and Ansible is, when you go for other tools like Puppet, Chef and other tools, basically these are all something called pull mode. These tools are pull mode. What is meant by pull mode? You're going to sit on a client and you pull the code from the server, right? So this is something called pull mode. But whereas when you go for Ansible, it is something called as push mode. It is something called push mode. Is this clear? Right? So push mode means we are not going to connect any manage mode. We are going to sit on a control node and we are going to manage your entire infrastructure by pushing the code. What is mean by pushing the code? Pushing the playbooks over the SSH key based authentication to the respective managed node that you want to target. Is this clear? So this is basically how it's going to work, right? So these are the reasons that made the entire world to look into Ansible, because it is agentless. Okay, the cost doesn't involve the same scenario. You take it, we are using 100 machines. Okay, right? We are using 100 machines license and you want to add another 25 machines, right? The licensing call doesn't, you can just add because it's a agentless. It doesn't have any agent here. You can add, you can use it later on. If you want, you can remove it. It's all up to you, right? So this is all things involves when it comes to Ansible. Okay, so this is the benefit. This is the benefit advantage when it go for Ansible, right? Now let's go into the thing. So what can I do using Ansible here? So when I say that what I can do using Ansible, you can do orchestration as we discussed just now. You can do configuration management, application deployment, provisioning, CI/CD, security compliances. On where you can do all these things, you can do it on firewalls, you can do it on load balances, your application, container, cloud, everywhere. I'm telling you. So there are wide range of technologies that you can automate using Ansible, right? Wide range of technologies, we can say. You can automate. You can automate the cloud, you can automate container, Windows, network, DevOps, storage, everything, everything. I'm telling you, your entire infrastructure, right? So this is the benefit of it. Okay, right. Then I'll just try to go into the things. And when I just talk about Ansible, Ansible will be, you can use Ansible from development to production. You can use Ansible, remember, from development to, you know, something called production. So whatever the, phases we have between from development to production, at all these phases, okay, you can use Ansible, right? So this is the beauty of Ansible here. Okay, so this is the thing. So now let's go into the things. So I'll just try to give you a small introduction about the architecture. Okay, so when it comes to an architecture here, first of all, you should know basically how the Ansible tool is going to work, and what are the components of the Ansible, and all these things we're going to discuss. So let's go. So just now we were discussing about this. Let me give you a small. So take an example. This is my control node here. So when I just talk about control node, so nowadays the control node, I mean, basically we used to use Linux only, but now the Ansible is also supported for Windows also. You can also deploy the Ansible on Windows machine and you can use that as a control node, right? So let's do one thing like we're calling it as a control node. So when I talk about control node here, because Ansible is installed here, Ansible is installed. Okay, so whenever you try to install Ansible, the dependency packages, okay, the dependency packages are, that is called Python. Python is must. Okay, because why the Python is used, we will also discuss about it. Okay, so Python is must here. Then we have a managed node here. Okay, this is called managed node. Managed node, right? And okay, and we also have a network connectivity. Good. Now what we are going to do, we talk more about the control node. Control node is a machine where the Ansible is installed. Just now we discussed. And when you are, you know, managing the things, when you're writing the code or you're running the code using, how you're going to write a code here, what language basically. See the code you're writing it, right? For take an example, we write a script. So basically, when you write a script, the script extension will be .sh. Yes, sir? No. Okay, this is you write a bash or bourne script. It will be by default. We will try to put sh. Why? Because this .sh extension will give you that it is a script, right? And at the same time, when you write a script, inside a script, you try to define something called shebang, right? You know what is shebang here, right? Shebang is nothing but it's a interpreter. It's a interpreter that you're going to put it by, because when you try to run, it will try to interact with the interpreter and it will try to execute it, right? This is basically about the script. Now in the same way, when you go for a playbook, I'm talking about a playbook. So like in normal bash scripting, we write a script in a playbook. I mean, when it comes to Ansible, we write a playbook. We call it as a playbook. Okay, playbook. We call it as a playbook in Ansible terminology. In Ansible. Okay, so how do we write this playbook? Very simple. Whatever the name of the file, I mean, it can be any name here. Take an example. I'm writing a playbook for HTTPD. Okay, I want to deploy HTTPD. The extension of the playbook should be always YML, or it should be something called httpd.yaml. This should be the extension. You're getting that? So how you put the .sh at the same time when you're writing a playbook, the playbook extension always should be something called YML or YAML, right? Okay, fine. Then when you're writing a playbook, always the playbook should start with 3 dashes and end with 3 dots. This will represent the playbook here, right? So within this 3 dashes and 3 dots, whatever you're going to write, we call it as a play. And the play contains something called task, and task contains something called modules, and module contains something called arguments. This is what exactly the playbook is designed. Okay, I'll show you some example playbooks. You will try to understand. You're getting it. So this is basically the basic rules that we need to follow in order to write a playbook. Always it should be .yaml. Sometimes you will see that in real industry, people don't maintain .yaml. Nothing will happen. But there are some differences that you're going to see practically when you, okay, write a playbook without an extension. Right? You will, I'll show you that all the differences. Okay. So this is basically how it's going to be. Okay, so this is what exactly it is going to work, right? So now fine, this is all about like how we are going to write a playbook, and this is all the extensions, this is all the rules that you need to follow. And whenever I'm talking about a playbook, the core important thing here is modules and arguments. So you should know what is modules here. Let me connect to the machine and I'll try to show you what is exactly modules here. See, inside the Linux, we have a commands. We try to use a commands inside the Linux. Like take an example, we want to create a user. What is the command that we are going to use? User add. You want to install a package, we use a command called yum, or we use something called DNF, right? Or you want to enable or start any service, what we will do? Systemctl is a command that we are going to use. Yes or no? So this is what exactly we use. At the same time, when it comes to Ansible, we have a concept called modules. And remember, modules are purely developed based on Python. Remember, modules are developed based on Python. So remember, modules are developed based on Python. This is the thing. Okay. So there are, wide variety of modules we have that has been categorized based on cloud, based on Windows, based on Linux, based on monitoring tool, based on storage, based on container, based on virtualization. There's so many things. So let me show you some modules here. So I'm going to run Ansible hyphen version. So basically this command will give you the install version of Ansible. So basically, so this is the version that Ansible, this is my control node where I have already, Ansible is installed, and this is a configuration file for Ansible, and this is a location where the Ansible modules are existing, right? So let me take you into this particular directory here. I'll just try to say ls, and you see there is a directory with the name called modules. As you get into this modules here, just say ls. There are modules which has been categorized based on the technology that we are going to use it. See, cloud, cluster, command, crypto, database, monitoring, okay, network, so many things we have. So let's take you into the cloud here, right? As you go into the cloud, see, there are many cloud vendors we have here. Let's take you into Amazon here. Okay, let's go into the Amazon. See, these are our modules that we are going to use it to manage your, Amazon cloud environment. You want to create a EC2 instance, you want to create a storage, you want to configure VPCs, You want to configure routing, you want to configure databases, right? You want to, use a cloud friend to, automate something. Yes, these are all the modules and see all the modules extension is .py. Can you see this? It is clear that it's everything written on Python. Can you see this? But as administrator, as an Ansible admin, no need to learn Python. If you learn Python, that is good. Why? Because you after after you gain a good experience in the Ansible, you can also write your own modules for your own applications, for your applications and tools. You're getting it. This is the benefit here. If you know the Python, the benefit here is after you gain a very good experience inside the Ansible. If you want to automate your tool or softwares or some environment using Ansible, and we don't have a modules for that, you can write your modules and you can, okay, use that modules in Ansible. This is the benefit when if you know the Python. Okay, so this is all the things here, right? Now I'll just come out of here. There are so many technologies we have. You can just see we have so many cloud tech. You want to go for Google, that is called Google Cloud. Go to the CD Google. You have all the Google GCP related modules here. And if you want to go for Azure and you see Azure, yeah, here we have. So we have Azure here. Can you see this is all Azure related modules here, right? So this is basically like how the modules are being developed. And inside the Linux, you want to read a man page for your command. What you do, you use man followed by the command name, right? At the same time, you want to read a module related documentation. We are going to use a command called Ansible-doc followed by the module name. Or you want to run Ansible-L, it is going to list a documentation for all the modules that is existing on your machine. This is all the modules. And you want to know how many modules the Ansible is going to provide. You just try to run this command and try to see there are 3,387 modules that is being provided with this version. Which version? With the 2.9.27. Getting it? And you want to read a documentation for any module, then just try to put here. See, user is a module that we are going to use in order to create a user, to modify the user, to delete a user. This is a documentation. And whenever it is listing a documentation, you need to observe from this location, the module documentation are being listed. Right? So what is this? This is a description, managing user accounts and user attributes for Windows target. If you're using for Windows, this is the module that you need to use. If it's for Linux, this is a module you need to use it. And you need to read all these options. Okay. We call it as options, or sometimes we also call it as an arguments here. Okay, like in the Linux we have options, right? User add -e, -f, -a, -u, -g, right? To customize. At the same time, here we have arguments here. So whenever you're working with Ansible, the important thing is you should know how to write a playbook, and the more than playbook, the important thing is you should know about the modules, right? Getting it? Without knowing the modules, you cannot use it. So that's the reason you should explore more into the module. You want to do anything, you should know whether we have a respective module for it or not. Like for example, I will give you a small example. Okay, see, small example I will tell you. We are going to see a module for something called find. We have a module for find. You know what is find command? We try to use a find command to search for a particular file or particular directory using some different patterns like name, permission, with permissions, with inode number, with size, like this, right? So even we have a module for find. That's not a problem. But if I talk about grep, there is no module for a grep, right? So when you don't find a module for a grep, then how to use this grep command? And how do I search? I'm not telling about how to use grep command. How do we search a content inside a file using Ansible? Yes, there are so many alternatives we have. There are so many alternatives we have. We will be discussing when we get into the concepts, right? Now let's get into the things. So I hope you understood what is playbook and how the playbook is written and what is a module here. Now let's get into this slide here. So you have understood. Then we talk something about inventory. What is inventory here? Let me talk something about inventory. Before we talk about inventory, let me talk something about etc host file. Tell me what is the importance about etc host file. See, when you want to communicate from one machine to another machine or one server to another server, the IP communication is a default communication method, right? But most of the scenarios we don't communicate with IPs because IPs might change at any point of time, because in real time environment they might be using something called dynamic IPs, or in some scenarios the IPs may change, right? So that's the reason what we do is we don't use an IP as a default community. I mean, we don't use IP address as a communication system. What we do, we use a host name. But if you want to communicate with the host name, what we need to do, we need to go to the etc host file and you need to update something called IP address 192.168, something called 27.41, and the machine name is something called managed node, and I'll put something called 192.168.27.42. I'll put something called control node. Like this I'm just trying to put, right? So if you put like this in etc host file, then later whenever you're trying to communicate with the host name, like it looks into the etc host file and then it targets that particular machine. Okay, why it looks into the host file? Because it resolves host name to IP address there locally and goes and hits that particular machine. In the same way, when you're trying to create a playbook, inside the playbook you will mention that you want to target so and so system A, you want to target so and so system B. So when you're trying to run a playbook, the playbooks looks into a file called inventory. Inventory is nothing but very simple. It's a it's a collection of machines. It's a LIST. It's a list of machines that you're going to collect. So list of machines or list of nodes or list of machines that we are going to target using playbook and Hadoop command. You getting my point? So what we will do, we will try to open a file like this, vim inventory, and we will put something called server A, server B, or I'll put IP address 192.168. Okay, 27.100, or I'll try to put something called sys A or sys.a.lab.com. Like this, you can put it. Right, this is how the inventory. So whenever you're trying to run a playbook, the playbooks looks into the inventory. It checks whatever the host name that you mentioned inside the playbook is that match with the inventory. If it match with the inventory, then immediately it targets the remote machine and performs the task that you have written inside the playbook. Okay, so this is what. So basically, see, the inventory file looks like this. So I'll just try to switch to the user called Ansible. Here I'll just try to go into the project. Here I'll just try to show you how the inventory looks. This is the inventory here. Can you see this? This is the inventory file, and this is the playbook. I can just show you. This is a playbook here. So I'll just try to go with a playbook which I have written here. I'll try to show you vim mul multi.yaml. This is a playbook, right? So this is a playbook. This is a play. I mean, this is the three dashes which starts, and ending is not that mandatory. Three dots ending is not that mandatory, and this is the way how the playbook is written, right? And it is purely written in YAML, and only thing you need to learn, this space indentation you should learn. How this is been placed. This is called play. This is called task. I mean, this is a task, and this task has a module. Module has an arguments, right? So what is this task says? I want to install a package which is HTTP package. Using what module we want to install? Using M, right? And HTTP is a package name. What is this present says? Present says that install. Okay. Getting it? Absence says remove. Latest says update, right? And you just see, I want to install, after installing HTTP, I want to enable that service and I want to start it. So what I do, I try to use a module called service, or I'm going to use a module called systemd. Can you see this? Right? Which service you want to enable? HTTP. You want to start it, you want to enable it. This is a second play where we are going to install which package? MariaDB. So I want to remove. I just said absent. Can you see this? So this is what exactly. So this is how the playbooks are written here. Okay, and we are going to use YAML, and YAML is a very simple language. You can just learn within a 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, and you can just write a playbook. You're getting my point. So this is basically how the playbook looks here. Okay, so now everything is fine. Like you have understood, like what is inventory, what is module, what is playbook, and we are going to see what is APIs. Okay, API
Got a
stands.
quick question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I saw the playbook, but I didn't saw the hosts over there. So why didn't you mention that? So is that the local server? Because of that reason you didn't mention?
No host is there. Can you see this? I just defined the host here.
Uh, oh, I thought you're gonna give
No,
some
no, no,
IP.
no, no, no.
Okay,
We
okay,
can
okay. Yeah,
use whatever the pattern you want. You can use. You can use IP. You can use host name. You can put fully qualified domain name. Anything that you can put. This is a host,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Got it. Clear. Thank you.
Right. So this is what exactly. So what we will do is very simple. So we will discuss what is API. See, APIs are mostly used when you want to interact with the cloud environments. Because if you want to, like, you want to connect to a AWS a console, right? You should have an API support. So Ansible by default provides a list of APIs that is supported, and using these APIs you can communicate with AWS Cloud Console, GCP Cloud Console, and VMware, or you talk about Kubernetes. Okay, you can talk to your Azure cloud. So these are the APIs are majorly used. And what is plugins here? Plugins are, we can say, like sometimes the modules doesn't provide you all the features, so sometimes you can use the plugins to enhance it, right? And this is all about. And one more thing here is, most of the times when we talk about inventory, right, there are two types of inventories. One is static, another one is dynamic. Just know whatever the file we have seen, that is nothing but a static inventory. Okay, but in real time we don't use static inventory if it is a big project, right? We use something called dynamic inventory. When you are talk about dynamic inventories, a dynamic inventories are being accessed through the configuration management databases, or it might be a Red Hat satellite, or it might be Windows AD, or it might be LDAP. You're getting my point? So this will be your dynamic inventories from where you're going to get it, right? And this is all about. And you can manage your host. That means it might be a single host on your data center. I mean, it might be a single host in a sense. It can be a single machine, or it can be a group of servers in a rack, or it might be a cloud, or it might be a network device. Yes, or it might be a storage. Yes, everything you can manage. Okay, using the Ansible server rack or a
Hello?
couple of. Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, I think I have a question.
Mm-hmm,
A quick one.
mm-hmm,
I actually want to I want to know if it's possible for Ansible to
mm-hmm.
target system in different locations. I mean, different location. What I mean by that is location like you're going to target a data center and the cloud too in different countries. Is it
Yes,
possible?
yes, yes, it is possible.
So how do you define the if it's
It
possible, how
is.
do you define the inventory or the playbook?
Yes, it is possible. It is possible. Okay, you can. We will try to use not static inventories. We will be using dynamic inventories to hit such kind of environments. Is this clear? Right. So this is how exactly it is going to work. This is how exactly it is. Yes, we can target. Okay, there are many ways like. tools are there where we are going to use it. Okay. So now see, cloud is not a matter, right? Because cloud, we have a different reasons. You're sitting on one reason and you're going to hit other reason. Yes, 100% we will have a routing, right? You will be having a routing so that you will can connect. Okay. So rest of things will be taken care by your things. You see, right now you're working in some environment. You're sitting in US, you're connecting to the UK. You're sitting in US, you're connecting to Singapore. How it is possible? Because we have a VPN, we have a connectivity already established. We are using all these systems to connect. Same way Ansible will be used. But only thing is to hit that particular machine, it should have an inventory. And that inventory might be a static or it might be from a dynamic. It might be taken from the Red Hat satellite server. It might be taken from Windows AD or some other, right? And maybe that CMD is there on your local environment, and sometimes it might be some other things. We will try to pull the information from there and we will try to hit it. This is what happens here. Okay. So these are things, and this is all about like how you're going to work with, right? So now find I hope you got most of the information about the things here. And I just want to show you the playbook with the YAML extension and without YAML extensions. There are differences we have. Like we take an example, I'll try to open without extension, you can see. And if I open with extension, you can see the differences here. The color coding, the formatting, everything will be changed, right? So it should
Okay,
be
so
always.
the one with extension and the one without extension. So are they both going to work? Or which one is
Yes,
not going to
yes.
work? Which one?
It's everything. Two is going to work with extension. Without extension, you can run it.
Okay.
It's not a problem, right? So fine. Now, what we will do, and this is a configuration file for default Ansible. So Ansible.cfg. This is a default configuration file, and this configuration file is going to get created while you're installing Ansible. And this configuration file will take after the behavior of your Ansible here. And basically right now you can see each and every configuration parameter has been commented here. But later on when we start working with the Ansible, we definitely work with all these options. Maybe you will try to customize it, right? So this is very important. Okay, and let's go into the things. So this is all about, then we talk something about a tower. As I told you, that tower is especially designed for enterprise, automating your enterprise. And there are a lot of difference between engine and tower. For example, we talk about engine doesn't provide you any log. You're writing a playbooks, you're running a playbooks, and you want to see some log, right? There is no log file for an Ansible engine, right? This is a big drawback. And second problem is Ansible engine doesn't have a control on the jobs or playbooks or inventories. You're getting what is meant by control? We just work with the native permissions, right? What is the native permission? Read, write, execute. Based on that only you can give a control, right? But this is really not sufficient in real-time environment, right? You want to create some users, you want to create some groups, and you want to give a control on the playbooks. You want to give a control on your inventories, right? That is not possible with the Ansible engine. It is possible with Ansible Tower. Ansible Tower provides you a log. It provides you, control over your playbook, control over your inventory using a rollbacks. Getting it? And you can, Ansible Tower also provides scheduling your jobs. What is mean with scheduling? You have written a playbook, you want to run it at a particular time. If you go for engine, you have to use a native tool called crontab. But whereas when you go for Ansible Tower, it has its own scheduler. You can use that scheduler and you can automate it. Getting it? So these are the benefits that it is going to provide when you go for Tower. And
Quick question, Razir.
yes,
Kumar Garu.
yes, please.
So we don't have that cron job kind of thing in Ansible, not on
No,
the tower.
no,
Ansible
I'm
engine.
saying that it has its own scheduler. We are not depending on OS cron tabs.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it has its own scheduler, right? It
Oh.
doesn't depend on why, because if you depend on the cron tab, right? If a cron tab service is having some issue, then all your jobs get stuck. Okay, So that's the reason it is using its own scheduler here. Tower has its own scheduler. It doesn't depend on any OS related services. It runs on its own, right? Whatever the job you want, you can schedule it. You can work on that. I mean, when the time comes, it try to run it that particular job and it try to complete, right? So these are the advantages that you're going to see when you go for a tower compared to engine, right? This is what I say. And when it comes to the tower, I mean, you can write a playbooks, you can write the playbooks or roles, and you can put it into a GitHub, or you can maintain your own local or public repositories, and you can pull your playbooks from that repositories. That is also possible using a tower. You're getting it. And how you write a playbook? If you're going with command line, most of the times we are going to write a playbook on a control node, okay, where the Ansible is installed. We use VI or a Vim and we write a playbook. But when you come to the real-time projects, when you're using a tower, right, we use a tools to write a playbook. Like we have a PyCharm. We will try to use a Visual Studio Code, which is used for Terraform, right? So this kind of tools you can use, and you can write the code, and you can upload this code into a GitHub, and from GitHub you can just specify the path of the GitHub and the credentials to the Ansible tower, and you can schedule it and you can run it that particular job. It will try to pull that particular code from the Git and it try to perform it. There's all the benefits we have. You're getting it? And tower provides you tier architectures. You know what is tier architectures? You can configure tower as 2-tier and 3-tier architecture. Security, right? So this is how exactly it is going to work. Okay, and tower maintains its own databases. You're configuring inventory, you're configuring a projects, you're creating users, everything gets stored into a database. The Postgres database is being used in the backend, right? It's very secure, it's very safe. Getting it? So these are all the benefits that we have when you go for Ansible tower. So this is what we can do Ansible tower. I will also show you how this Ansible tower console looks. Let me connect. That's 135. I'll try to show you. This is a tower console. Can you see this? This is a tower console, right? So what I'll do, I'll just try to put the username and password. So I just try to put the password here, whatever the password I gave it. I just try to press an enter. You will get into this console. So this is a tower. From here, you start writing your projects. You try to add your host, right? You can create a inventories. You can see everything is, you can see all the jobs here. Okay, you can see the licensing information. Go to the settings. You will just click on the license. What kind of license we are using, right? So this is what exactly. I'm using a development subscription here. The development subscription will be provided a 365-day subscription, and my subscription will expire on this particular date. See? Previously, Red Hat used to not provide this developer subscription. From last 6 to 8 months onwards, they have implemented this. Right? If you don't go for developer subscription, right? If you go for normal subscription, it will be 60 days trial only. But if you take developer subscription, we can go. And how many nodes we can manage here? 16 nodes we can manage, including the control node where you have installed tower.
Okay, so you can manage more than 16 nodes.
Yeah.
On Ansible tower.
Yes, you can have one machine from Red Hat, one machine from Ubuntu, one is from Unix, one is from Windows, one can be your VMware ESXi.
Or I mean, so what about if you're working for an organization that has like 300 servers, for example? That means you can use tower to control that?
Yes, why not? Yes.
I think you mentioned 16 machines right now.
No, 16 machines is been given, it's been provided by the Red Hat, because mine is what kind of subscription? It's a
Okay.
developer sub, and I'm an
Okay. For
individual
the
subscription.
okay. Yeah, I get that. So
Okay.
for enterprise
Yeah.
is going to be like
Yes.
yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get
So
it.
whatever the like requirement you have, you will say that I want to go for 100 node subscription. And
Okay.
for that, they will charge, and you need to pay, and you need to take the subscription.
So how do you target the target
So,
machine in your
so
tower?
here you need to just go with something like you need to create a inventory, you need to create a project, you need to create credentials, and you
Okay.
need to create a template, and you need to run this template here. You see, just I go into template. Do you see this rocket symbol? When I just click on this rocket symbol, it
Yeah.
starts run
Yeah. Okay.
job, right? You can schedule it from here, scheduler. So whatever jobs you schedule, you will be seeing it here, right? You can create users, you can create groups, you can create organizations, you can create a teams, you can define the permissions for them, right? So many things we can do from this Ansible tower. Okay, you can create a user and you can tell that you can give that user, yes, he should work on a particular project. That's it. Yes, he will be doing only the task on that particular project.
Okay. So you can you
Right?
can you can you
Yeah.
can you can do access control.
Yes. So this is the benefit of going for Tava. In many, enterprise level projects, we see a Tava. You're getting my point? So this is a benefit here. This is a benefit. Right? So this is all about. Okay, then this is all what we have discussed. And basically a part of demo, I just showed you the configuration file, how to read a documentation, right? And this is a site from where you can read the documentation. Basically right now, Red Hat is providing all the Ansible documentation as a web-based documentation. You can just click on this docs.ansible.com. It gives you a detailed documentation there. Okay, and this is all about, right? So leave this certification point, all these things, it's not required because we are not going in certification, we are just going as a job oriented. And of course, after this, if you want to go for certification, yes, RS294, you can definitely do it. Okay, because we are covering all the concepts which will cover RS294, right? This is what exactly. So these are the links from where you can download the Ansible. That's it. So this is all about today's webinar. So that's it. So we will meet tomorrow same time. So thanks for joining the webinar. We'll see you tomorrow same time. Bye.